Vice President. There we go. Got it. Good morning, everybody. I'm Louis David, Vice President of Industry Attraction and Retention here at New Orleans Business Alliance. I am sitting in today for Greg Lawson, who normally handles these duties. He is with our team at another exciting announcement and wishes he could be here. But we wanted to continue the series. So this is our Economic Development District convening series that we hold in partnership with Louisiana Economic Development. So for everybody who's just tuning in, I'm sure most of you guys work with us on a regular basis, but New Orleans Business Alliance is the public-private partnership that serves as the City of New Orleans Economic Development Organization. So we work with the city, the business community, as well as the philanthropic community to grow jobs and investment in New Orleans. And through this specific partnership with LED, we are working to share some of our resources with some of the economic development districts throughout the city to make sure that you guys know some of the tools that we have, that you know how to access them. Some of them you can access on your own through our NOLA BA website, but also we are here kind of as your virtual and physical library. This presentation will live on at nolaba.org, so you can share it with any of your colleagues, or if you forget something and want to go back and look at something, you can do that there. But the NOLA BA team who's on this call and the folks who even are not on the call are always available to be a resource to you. So please reach out if you have any questions. So today's topic is using data to drive decision-making in times of crisis and recovery, which seem to be times that we do not get out of lately. Hopefully, we begin to turn that corner, but, the past 2 years has really taught us that, especially for small businesses, it's really important to know who your customers are, who your clients are, where are they, and if something changes where they can't get to you in their normal channel, what's the best way that you can get to them so that your business can continue to grow? And, the word resilient is, sometimes overused in New Orleans, but we have really seen our small businesses become even more resilient over the past 2 years as they've dealt with lots of different challenges. So, that's always something to celebrate. And thank you to the economic development districts for being that partner in your neighborhoods for the businesses. So we wanted to talk about some of the tools and technology available to your community. So I wanted to go through first and introduce our speakers. So our first speaker will be Omar Stanton, who is here at NOLA BA. He's our Vice President of Data Analytics and Performance Management. And Omar will be talking about some of the tools that we have available to us here at NOLA BA that we fund and we put out there for everybody in the community to use. But we think it's really important for folks on this call to understand those tools so that you can help businesses in your community know that those tools are available and that know how to work them, and know that you can always call us if you have questions about what they are and what they do. And then Cheyenne Robinson will be joining us from Buxton. She's a senior account executive, and Buxton has some really great insights. NOLA BA subscribes to the Buxton platform, and it allows us to look at who are consumers in New Orleans, what are they buying, how often are they buying it, and it even goes down to a level that I think is so cool that it allows people to look at geographical, physical locations and say, what are the types of businesses and even the brands that would succeed in that location. So the Buxton tool has been kind of a game changer for us at NOLA BA to help us further realize at the end of the day, all of us, we don't want to see businesses just open and then fail. That's a worst case scenario. We want to see businesses open, succeed, thrive, become employers in the community and become contributors to the New Orleans economy. So I think the Buxton data really helps us provide some of those tools. So, before I pitch it over to Omar, and he's gonna talk about just the tools that we have available on the nolava.org website, easy to get into. The Business Insight tool is actually a tool that I have been using quite a lot over the past couple months as we talk with companies who may not have a local presence, who want to know more about what sites and what buildings are available in New Orleans. Some of the real estate search tools on the Business Insight tool have been really helpful to me. You can put in criteria if it's for lease or for sale, put in the size, all that kind of stuff. It almost acts like a Zillow, but when it gives you the results, you're able to take those properties and the properties that are interesting to you and to synthesize them into many different types of reports. And I've personally used it with a number of companies over the past couple of weeks, and it's really easy to use, but it's really nice the way that it coalesces all that data and makes it easy to present. So Omar, without stealing more of your thunder, please take it away, and I will stop sharing my computer so you can share your slides.
No, Louis, can you please share those slides?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
So as Louis mentioned, I'm the VP of Data Analytics and Performance Management here at NOLA VA, and really driving the movement behind using data to make informed decisions and using data to make decisions that assist us in both crisis recovery and really just ensuring that we have economic output in the city. So as a data-driven organization, the Business Alliance believes that all of the decisions that we make, they should be steeped in data. We use data to identify gaps in the economy. We use data to develop strategies to address those gaps. We use data to measure the outcomes and impact of those strategies. And also, as an economic development leader in New Orleans, we also believe that it's our responsibility to keep the public informed and to provide data for public consumption. As Louis mentioned, some of our flagship data tools are the New Orleans Business Insight tool, the Crescent City Biz Connector, the Opportunities Portal, and the COVID-19 Economic Impacts Dashboard. I'll briefly describe the first two and spend a few minutes on the latter prior to showing you a very, very brief demonstration. So whether you're a startup, you're an existing or an established business, or even if you're in a growth stage, the Crescent City Biz Connector is the perfect tool to identify those essential business supports. It's designed to connect the business community with resources like co-working spaces, financial assistance providers, economic development organizations, and even TAR, technical assistance providers. Business owners or even potential business owners, depending on their industry, they can select the stage of their business, the demographics, and types of support that they need. And then, as Louis mentioned, a curated list will be generated to assist you in your, getting your business moving in the right direction. The Opportunities Portal is just as its title. It's a platform where businesses can identify potential procurement opportunities. It allows NOLA VA to support businesses by providing them with access to procurement opportunities in both the public and private sector. And additionally, in addition to identifying procurement opportunities, potential procurement opportunities, businesses can also list their procurement opportunities. Next slide, Louis. So if you're like me, you'll really enjoy the Business Insight tool. I geek out with this type of data, but essentially the Business Insight tool is it's just a robust collection of hand-selected federal and local data sets that have been arranged to give business owners the information necessary to make smarter, faster, and better decisions. This tool allows the business owners to do deep dives around things like the current business climate with information on population, the labor force, employment rate, housing, so on and so on. And through the Business Insight tool, businesses can access information on competition with data sets around businesses within an industry, locations, competition, et cetera, et cetera. But all in all, the Business Insight tool, it provides roughly 13 different tiles with a slew of data points and information, all aimed at really equipping the business owner with the data necessary to understand their customers, to understand the workforce and talent, and really understand the industry. And most importantly, the data to better understand what trends are coming and how they should prepare for those trends. Next slide. So similar to the Business Insight tool, the COVID-19 Economic Impact Dashboard is also a curated set of federal, state, and local data sets, as well as some research that was conducted by a group of Harvard economists. Early in the pandemic, we needed information that was pertinent to New Orleans. There was a slew of information out there at the national level in other states, but nothing that was really specific to our economy. We needed something that really focused on New Orleans. So we built our dashboard with a set of data points around unemployment insurance claims, labor force participation, job postings, small business closures, small business revenue, so on and so forth, really determine what the next steps would be to ensure that our economy rebounded. We wanted to see the correlation between COVID and how consumers were spending their money, between COVID and projected job loss, and really between COVID and foot traffic. We just wanted to know how COVID was impacting the community. In our first several iterations of the dashboard, we used national data and national research to project how the pandemic would impact our tax revenue, job loss, and how those jobs and at what pace those jobs will rebound. And then later iterations, we introduced data that was relevant to the PPP loans across the city. And then in our last iteration, we focused specifically on those major economic indicators I mentioned: employment, consumer activities, business activities. And lastly, we added another component that gives both aggregated and disaggregated data on New Orleans around poverty, demographics, household income, home ownership, and other descriptive data points. So if you can just allow me to quickly share my screen, Louis, I'll allow the audience to see where can you see it, my screen now? So this is just NOLA BA's website, nolaba.org. Here you can find, this is where you would find not only the economic impact dashboard, but if you select small business, this is where you would find the rest of our small business tools. The Business Insight tool, the Crescent City Biz Connector, and the Opportunities Portal. And very quickly, when you dive into the Business Insight tool, I mentioned that there were 13 tiles. You can find out about the business climate, industry trends, analyze your competition, evaluate the workforce, so on and so forth. So very, very quickly, I just want to demo the business climate. Here, there are high-level indicators around the economy. They talk about the labor force, established business establishments, what the unemployment rate has looked like from 2015 through the most recent data point, which is July of this year. You can look at population, demographics around age, so on and so forth. And as I mentioned, around understanding what your customers look like. For this particular demo, I just highlighted fitness centers. You can select a multiple of industries. And then it gives a heat map based upon criteria that you select. If my customer, for instance, made between 25 and 75,000, I can see a heat map of where they are within the city. Likewise, I categorize it by age, income, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a bunch of information that really can equip the business owner or the potential business owner with decision making to be better prepared. And lastly, I want to show you the economic impact dashboard. So as I mentioned, top of the line, we have demographic. These are high level data points based off the Census Bureau. And if you look at various census tracts within the city, it gives a breakdown of high level demographics, age, sex, descriptive data, what the community looks like, the number of housing units, poverty level, so on and so forth. And those indicators that we felt like really defined how COVID was impacting the community. This particular chart here shows the number of insurance claims week by week, unemployment insurance claims, week by week, and how it peaked early on in the pandemic and slowly decreased over time with a few fluctuations relative to the federal additional federal insurance ending, relative to Delta spikes, so on and so forth. And it tracks unemployment rate. And for this particular group, I want to really talk about the number of small businesses closures over time and how that's been impacted by COVID by industry, and then also the small business revenue. So I mean, it's a bunch of information, and I know it was a lot, but if you take the time to look through both the Business Insight tool as well as the Economic Impact Dashboard, I'm sure you'll find the information that you need to be successful. And with that, I'm not sure if you want to do Q&A now, Louis, or if you want to just table it until the end. You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, let's do Q&A now, because I think you're going to have like different types of questions.
Sure.
But I will say that, sorry, I'm trying to see if this is right. I really think the dashboard information is really important, because as we've seen throughout lots of other different economic bumps in the road, the New Orleans market has very different numbers than the national market, or even the Louisiana, state numbers, as you just showed up there. So I think that's really interesting. While we wait to see if anybody has any questions, what have you seen with those numbers as we've kind of rounded the corner from the summertime? I think everybody expected that we'd be a lot more back to normal this fall than we are. That's due to Delta and Ida. But what are those kind of early numbers starting to tell you about where we are?
Well, as you mentioned, Delta, we saw the numbers really going down, as it relates to the number of UI claims. Unemployment numbers were going down. Consumer spending was starting to move in the right direction, but with the increase in cases in Delta, we did see those numbers start to trend downward, or at least became relatively flat, but we didn't see that same upward trend. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how the numbers are impacted with the holidays coming up. Whether or not there's a huge shift in consumer spending and consumer traffic, or whether or not Delta will continue to play, those major indicators.
And our market is so reactive due to the, large part that tourism and consumer spending, plays in our economy. Just the other day, I'm in our office looking at the Superdome, and the other day, we had the first almost at full capacity game at the Superdome, and you saw restaurants open downtown that haven't seen a crowd in almost 2 years. So it's going to be, and then, you know, we had all the linemen staying downtown for, you know, a month. So I wonder how we're going to see that come up in our numbers over the fall. It'll be interesting. We have a question from David Cody. He says, I see the demographic data. Do you have psychographic or lifestyle data as well? I know Buxton will talk a little bit about that, but Omar, what's...
Yeah, so we use multiple tools to get that information, and absolutely, Buxton is one that gives us that more descriptive data.
Yeah, it's that's very interesting. And I was going through some of the Cheyenne slides, and it's just very interesting to see how intricate they can get on who are the folks that are shopping and buying and making decisions, and what's driving that. All right. Any other questions for Omar? And we'll have some time at the end too. All right, well, thank you, Omar. Let's move along to Cheyenne Robinson from Buxton. Good morning, Cheyenne.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
And I have stopped sharing, so I think you can share your presentation.
All right, can you see that on your end, Lewis?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, we're all set. Well, as you mentioned, Lewis, I'm Cheyenne Robinson. I'm the Senior Account Executive of our team at Buxton. We are a consumer intelligence technology company. So as shared earlier on the call, New Orleans Business Alliance has a subscription to our software, which provides data needed to help catalyze neighborhood revitalization by leveraging our data assets and really helping spur growth in the local economy. So I'm going to talk a bit about what type of data tools we have available that you can request access to through our partnership with the New Orleans Business Alliance. So you'll go to their team, they'll be able to point in the right direction to the reports I'm going to be walking you through today. Now, before we dive in, and I'm sure many of you on this call today, you know that there's growth going on the retail sector. I do often get questions of, well, you know, the COVID slowing things down. But what we're seeing on our end is that we really can't hire fast enough right now for our clients that are looking to grow. We're seeing equity being put in great numbers for clients wanting to help and have growth and growth fast. Retailers are taking advantage of the lessons learned from 2020 to implement new technology to really bridge that gap between the in-store and digital shopping experiences and introduce consumers to what we're seeing called physical retail 2.0, which really embraces the acceleration of digital while it's reinventing that brick and mortar experience. We saw in outdoor malls in July, they were actually up 2.1% from the 2019's pre-health crisis. Also seeing a lot of trends of repurposing vacant department stores with healthcare centers, fitness, specialty retail, offices, and fulfillment centers to drive foot traffic into malls. So before we dive into the data to help you with economic development and help you with catalyzing growth into neighborhoods, it's important to know that there is growth going on in the retail sector, and what is that type of growth. Now, how we're able to speak to this and what our experience is here at Buxton is working with retailers. We've worked with thousands of retailers across various industries. Marriott, for example, they work with us to know where they should put what in which flag based on where their best customers are found, who they are, and what's going to help increase a better performing flag so that they can decrease the risk of opening a low performer in the marketplace. And about 15 years ago, we started working on the public sector and working in economic development to do the reverse of that, to understand what are the type of businesses that would be most successful at a location in a neighborhood to help fill the leakage and gaps that you may have for those community resident and also for those visitor needs. So that's really developed into, in summary, an intelligent economic development. And that's what our platform does. And that's what you all have access to through our partnership. It allows you to analyze a location that could be a business, a shopping center, a site, to help you attract new business, to help you retain and grow existing businesses that have already invested in your neighborhoods as well. Now, our platform has a number of features and a plethora of data available. What's most important is the answers that you get from that data and the story that you're able to tell. So the platform is called Scout. It helps you tell your neighborhood's a story through powerful mapping and reporting. As the old saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. With our data analysis, you can make your presentation more intuitive with our map interface. You can study different markets, spot opportunities, illustrate your recommendations to guide smart business decisions, even drill into traffic counts. If you're working with a local business that wants to understand, is this location going to be a better area for a billboard, or what is the morning traffic at this location for a prospective business? We even have insights into the opportunity and need within the area. What you're seeing here is actually a map in our platform that shows the grocery opportunity by block group, where the most need is in gray, second and in orange for grocers. And so you can see those opportunities throughout your neighborhoods. Now, one of the many tools that you have access to is to understand foot traffic with extreme precision. And this is important, especially with when you have risks that take place and you have obstacles that you're trying to overcome, and you're trying to see where are we compared to where we were before. And so this is going to give you in real-time data as recent as 72 hours from today's date and as far back as 2019. What that data is, so when we're talking about mobile data, it's anonymous GPS data. It's sourced through smartphones. So if you've downloaded an application, you put, yes, I approved all of the information here, track my location. What that's doing is you're opting in to sharing that. And so if people that have if you've opted in through smart mobile applications, we're able to analyze who the consumer is, where they're going. Now, it's not going to track back and say, okay, Omar, Lewis, they were at this location at this time. What it's going to tell me is this type of consumer that lives approximately in this area. It's not going to tell you exactly at this house. It's going to be about 500 or so feet away, so that we are protecting that privacy. But what it's going to tell you is who they are, where they're coming from, and then you can apply that for attracting more businesses that are going to cater to that customer and their needs and what they prefer. It's going to help you tell an existing business, here's where your customers are coming from. This is where you need to be marketing to. And these are the type of offerings that they prefer. So maybe you want to bolster or boost a little bit of your inventory. And here's a better idea of where to start because you have a better sense now of those consumers. Now, this is showing you, this is an example here in Fort Worth. We're going to actually dive into some specific insights for different commercial corridors and neighborhoods. But what this is showing you is a demonstration of how our platform works. So you say, okay, we want to analyze this shopping center. We want to analyze, maybe it's your business. And we want to see who the people are that pass through that area, where they're coming from, and where else they like to go. And then it's going to give you all of that answers with all of those answers within one report. So for example, here we're looking at on the left, we have visitors to that green circle you're seeing in New Orleans East. So we're looking at people that visited that area. And this is where they live. So this is a heat map showing you where there's higher areas of visitation of the people that went to this area of New Orleans East. On the right, we're looking at the Treme commercial corridor. And so you're seeing where people live that went to this area. So it's a spatial analysis that it also provides to you. And so where are they coming from? Insights to those home and work locations of your visitors. It's going to give you understanding of where they're coming from in distance in miles, as well as what are the top counties, DMAs, states, and zip codes for the people that are visiting your business or your commercial corridor or your neighborhood area. Now, in addition to knowing where people are coming from, who are the people that are visiting? So this gets into the question that we had earlier. Does New Orleans Business Alliance have access to psychographic and lifestyle data? Yes, absolutely. And we can get into your specific business. What are the lifestyle profile of that area? A shopping center. Here you're looking at a comparison between the area and study area New Orleans East and the Treme commercial corridor. And this is looking at the top profiles for the Treme commercial corridor, but you can also see how there's some similarities between those consumer types. This is extremely valuable for understanding beyond demographics, and because you could have two households that have the same demographics, income, age, but they may live two very different lives as far as how they're spending their dollars. And so that's why the profiling information through the segmentation is extremely valuable to get that detailed consumer view, understand their household composition, economic circumstances, housing and living. Now we can drill into these segments a bit more. There's 71 of them here, showing you a snapshot of the top 5. Let's drill into a few of these consumers a bit more. Here we have, D18. These are going to be upper established couples and families. And this consumer frequently like to shop at discount department stores like TJ Maxx. If you're a local business, they're going to want to be preferred to be communicated with through radio, TV, and direct mail. This consumer is 32% of the New Orleans East study area of their visitors, 17% of the Treme area, and then they represent about 5% of the consumers in the Algiers area that was analyzed. Whereas the E19, these consumers have high discretionary income. These are more upper middle class consumers that like to read newspaper, magazines. They like to listen and learn about brands when they're listening to radio like Pandora. And they like to shop at places like Nordstrom and more specialty shops, but they also do like department discount stores as well. These consumers are 58% of the New Orleans East area analyzed, around 6% of Treme, and then 17% of the Algiers profile. So this consumer is more prevalent between New Orleans East and Algiers, but not as much in the Treme area. Whereas G24, we're really seeing those consumers as more predominant in the Algiers area. These are going to be younger households that are cutting edge singles. They are balancing work and leisure lifestyles. They like learning about new brands, products, and services. They like engaging with brands while they're streaming TV or browsing the web on their phone. They love shopping, but when they go to the mall, they prefer to shop alone and they prefer to shop frequently. They're willing to pay markup for designer fashion, and they insist on carrying the latest iPhone and smartest technology when they're out and about. So this is going to be people that you want tagging your location. You're going to want them to post because they're active on social media. Now, this is not a summary of all of the consumers that make up the people that are visiting your commercial corridors. These are some that are most prevalent and some of the characteristics that describe them. This is just a snapshot of the level of detail available to you. We can also drill into the top places that they're visiting to understand their consumer journey, where they were visiting before, after they were at your neighborhood or shopping area. So this can be impactful of knowing what are other places do they like to go? What other places do they like to shop at? And lastly, what are the best retailers that match your neighborhood? What are the retailers that, out of all of the ones that are out there, that are most promising to attract into your community? Through our match tool, using that GPS data, we're able to see the type of people that go to your site and the type of people that go to the retailer site and see, do those consumers match up? Do you have a presence of them to discover which retail, restaurant, or consumer brands or service brands that are the best match for your site? You can also use this to compare visitors at your current locations to a site's trade area, and most importantly, present a compelling case to prospective tenants and businesses with these data-driven insights. This allows you to compare a new location to look at the customer potential and current customer observations, and also understand feasibility for a brand at any given location. So let's take a look at an example here. And this is looking at the New Orleans East area. We've got Shoe Department on the left, and we've got DSW on the right. Now, the full report is interactive. This is just a snapshot of the one piece of it, the location analysis. It's a benchmark where it's showing you the first scores. Do you have enough of the customers? Do you have a similar ratio? And then are the demographics overall similar? It's very quickly to understand. So red is poor, light green's average, dark green means great. It's that easy. And so what this tells us is that in the New Orleans East area, Shoe Department is more promising. And if you're trying to attract tenants, it's going to be more best suited for your resources to pursue Shoe Department than it is for you to pursue DSW. Now, when we look at another area in the federal city, Algiers area, we're looking at a comparison of Winn-Dixie versus Kroger. So Kroger is not as good of a fit as a Winn-Dixie. That's what this tells us. And it also is going to give you the insights to go pursue that business or to start that conversation to show that they're a good fit, and the data is driving those results, and it's worth them to consider a location in the neighborhood. Now, if anyone is on the call that's not familiar with the real estate site selection process, it's not as simple as, okay, everything's green, they're going to open up here. This is meant to start that dialogue and point you in the right direction so that you're not spinning your wheels on retailers that are not a good fit and able to focus on ones that are most promising. And you're going to have the tools to start that communication. So instead of it being 5-10 years, we can hopefully work on a 3 to 2 year time frame, because real estate, as many of you know, it's a long life cycle. And so you need the right tools and data to drive those conversations so that you're able to build meaningful relationships that are based upon data-driven results. So love to answer any questions at this time. Overall, this is allowing you guys to analyze, attract, retain, and grow.
Cheyenne, I think that's super interesting. As you could see, I was like up in the up in the screen reading some of those fine print parts. David Cody said, do you have any benchmarks for local retailers or just national?
Great question, David. So you are able to do benchmarks for local retailers. So what you would do is we could take a few of your locations and see how are they performing? We could even take your location and a competitor location and see, is your competitor getting more foot traffic than your location, or are you performing better than their location? And are you getting different mix of customers than your competition? So absolutely able to do benchmarks and as near real time as you can get.
So somebody could even say, hey, I'm an independent business owner and I have a single restaurant. I want to see, how I compare in foot traffic in these metrics versus the other independent restaurant across the street from me or across town.
Right, exactly.
Cool. Interesting. And I thought it was also really interesting that it looked like a lot of the New Orleans East and Treme consumers were kind of cross shopping in both of those areas. The colors were darker for both of those sides. So there may be opportunities for businesses that have, a location in New Orleans East to open in Treme or vice versa. And then, okay, so Lauren Siegel says, can you talk a little bit about more how this would be useful for an area that serves primarily tourists? Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Definitely a big portion of the economy in New Orleans. So if you have an area that's primarily serving tourists, what we can do is, so we talked a little bit about the mobile report and how you can see who the consumers are in the area. And the way that it's originally created is you just look across the entire country, right? Well, we've added in filters because we're taking questions like Lauren's and implementing that so that we can make improvements to our product. And we found that people were wanting to understand more of the tourists and visitors to an area. So when you're going to request that type of report from the New Orleans Business Alliance team, you can ask them, I want to understand the visitors to this area, but I want to look at the people that live greater than 20 miles or 30 miles, because my business or my business question or my area is primarily focused on tourists, which are going to be people that don't live locally. So what you can do is add a filter. We can add a filter to that report so that we're only looking at the insights and the consumer makeup of the people that don't live locally that are visiting your area.
And I think that's a really important point. And especially it's nice to have this data that's being continually updated because, like Omar and I were talking earlier, the tourists that are in New Orleans right now are primarily regional tourists. Whereas before, in a normal year pre-COVID, especially in October, we'd probably have a lot of folks from just across the country. So the makeup of who's visiting New Orleans has changed and will probably continue to ebb and flow with everything that's going on. So I bet it'd be interesting to see those profiles from 2019 versus today, and what's the difference in those folks and how businesses can kind of pivot what they're offering or look at different places. Chandra had a good question about how can the EDDs specifically take this data and maybe not on a specific one business area, but how can they look at it through a business district area and say, all right, this business is doing really well. Who's the best fit to go next door to them to make sure that they continue to have a steady stream of customers and that we can get somebody else in to activate a space that may be empty right now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So what we can do for those type of questions is we can see, okay, this business is doing really well. Well, what are the other type of businesses that match well for that shopping center, for that vacant location that's across from that business? So maybe you want to focus on grocery being a need. We can run that report and see, okay, of the grocers in the state, which are the most promising for this area? Or we can drill in and understand, okay, we know the profile of consumers that are going to your business, and we know that those people prefer, like we were saying, discount department stores, for instance. So then we can say, okay, of discount department stores, what's going to be most promising to locate at this location and use that for those attraction efforts.
And I think it's super helpful that I think everybody on this call knows that retail doesn't exist on islands. People like to cross shop. And I think that's where the EDDs can really use this information, especially as we all interact with public landowners and private landowners, as we try to, set the table for more development in New Orleans and look at the sites available and say, okay, this business can be really successful, but it can be even more successful if we have access to this site, nearby, whether that be a publicly or privately owned site. One thing, and if anybody has any extra questions, put them in now, but kind of the last thing I wanted to talk to you, Cheyenne, about is something that you started the presentation off with, is that retail is still seeing movement. And, a lot of people are like, oh, everything's getting Amazoned right now. No one goes to a store anymore. But I think we're seeing nationally and locally, that's not true.
Yes, absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, we can't hire fast enough for our clients that are looking to grow. And that's across various verticals that we work with. Now, a lot of the headlines that you're seeing a lot of times are, oh, this store is closing, this one's filing bankruptcy. But there's also so many hundreds of thousands of retailers that are looking to grow. That's not making all of the headlines as well. We have a lot of clients that are doing more unique development. We're working on the healthcare side of where you're starting to see healthcare going into malls to help drive drive foot traffic. And so it's not that retail's not growing, it's just growing in a different way. And it's incorporating e-commerce and digital into brick and mortar. And so it's just a new type of experience that we're going to continue to see grow now and in the future.
Who are some, not to put you on the spot, who are some brand names that you're seeing grow in a community like ours?
So we are seeing right now a lot of discount department stores that are growing. I've been working with a lot of clients and seeing a lot of growth from that area. Also starting to see more of kind of unique entertainment options that are going in as well. But really the area that I'm seeing the most in similar communities is discount department stores.
Cool. Yeah, we have Five Below is new to our market. And I love Five Below. I was there just the other day and like buying some random stuff. They always have great deals, but it's like a nice, very new, clean store. So there's a lot of, when people think of discount department stores, they may have one image in their head, but you're right. A lot of these new retailers really are modern, putting emphasis on customer service, all those kinds of things, and brands that may not be active in our market, but may be a good fit.
Right. And TJ Maxx is also a discount department store. And so, yeah, there's you might have one image like you're saying, but there's a lot of different brands and different scales that we're seeing grow. One thing I did want to add is that the New Orleans Business Alliance team, your team is extremely innovative in using and being creative with how you're applying data for your neighborhoods. And Omar actually presented me with a few weeks ago a really great question in understanding the impact of pre-storm, post-storm, what are we seeing in those trends and an impact. And so we're able to use the mobile GPS data and see, okay, how far off are we as far as foot traffic to where we were before this crisis. And so questions is how have we been able to provide these answers and really evolve what we're doing as a partner to you all and a partner to our clients across the country. So really just want to you're the great team here asking the right type of questions, but you all have the ability to also ask those questions to work with the data that we have and get the answers you need from whether it be retail, restaurant, development, or tourism related. We have those answers.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cheyenne. I appreciate your time this afternoon. Chandra has a question. Oh, Cody has a question. Do you see any retail sectors that are not returning to pre-COVID levels or returning more slowly?
I would say that we are starting to see some fitness pick back up, but I would say the fitness sector has been a little bit slower than what we're seeing in other areas for sure.
It's interesting. I had an out-of-town investor ask me specifically the other day, how is fitness? Are people going back to gyms in New Orleans? And I said, well, I see cars there. And but that's an interesting one that I didn't really think of. But you can imagine they just don't see the same head count that they did, before all this. Interesting. All right, thank you, Cheyenne. And we are almost done. I'll pull up my screen again just to share some of the information on the next opportunities. Our next EDD learning opportunity will be, Thursday, January 27th, so in the new year. If anybody has any questions on the information that we presented today, please reach out to Omar or Greg or the SND at nolaba.org email address that goes directly to Greg, and he'll be able to send you to the right person. Once again, this has been recorded, so we'll have it online if you want to share with any of your colleagues, or if you want to refresh on any of the information that we went over today. But I want to thank everybody who helped put this together today. Thank you to Omar, thank you to Cheyenne, but also thank you to Chandra and Val on our team and Naomi, and thank you to our partners at Louisiana Economic Development for partnering on this. Okay, I have one more question. Let's see. Oh man, we got another question. Okay, look, we don't have to end. How is the data regarding the kind of retail match for specific areas, such as the match for shoe retail, DSW for NOLA East, being used to actually attract the businesses to that areas that match? Are there specific business recruiting efforts? That's from Tangi Wall. I guess I can speak to that. You know, Greg and Omar and our NOLA BA team are using this data to talk to landowners and to tenants, to shopping center owners about the opportunities that they have to market their properties. We're also going out there and talking to the retailers themselves. There's the ICSC, which is the big shopping center expo that is generally in the spring, hasn't happened for the past 2 years. Hopefully it will happen this coming spring. I think NOLA BA plans on being a big part of that and being involved in that discussion with the retailers. But yes, we are working on specific business recruitment efforts, and we're also here to share this information with the economic development districts. Some have more of an organization than others, but we're willing to work with anybody if you're in a formal capacity or not, about how to use this data and how to talk to landowners, building owners, as well as specific retailers on the opportunities that are in different parts of the city. Yeah, awesome, great. Yeah, email us, snd@nolaba.org. All right, well, thanks everybody. If nobody has any further questions, have a great Thursday, and Greg and the rest of the team will see you in January. Email us if you have any questions before then. Thanks.